I was the pastor everyone admired, the man people trusted to guide them to God. But behind every sermon, behind every prayer, I was hiding a secret so dark it almost destroyed everything. If you've ever worn a mask, stay until the end, because this is the ugliest truth I've ever told. Subscribe and comment where you're watching from, because this is not just my confession. This might be yours too. My name is Gabriel. I was the pastor everyone looked up to, the man people respected, followed, admired. I stood on stages preaching holiness, purity, and surrender to God. I prayed for families. I cast out demons. I laid hands on broken people, and they believed. They believed that I was a man after God's own heart. But what they didn't know was that I was living a lie. Behind the sermons, behind the perfect smile, behind the verses and the prayers, there was a man drowning. A man trapped in chains that no one could see. My addiction? Pornography, masturbation, endless fantasies that invaded my mind day and night. It didn't start when I became a pastor. It started way before. But ministry didn't heal me. It just forced me to wear a mask. Because how could I, the man of God, admit that I was kneeling at the altar on Sunday ... but bowing to my flesh every other night? I told myself it was just a phase. I told myself getting married would fix me. I told myself prayer would be enough. But the truth? Every time I preached about holiness, something inside of me whispered, liar, hypocrite, fraud. The worst part? No one knew. No one suspected. They saw me as a spiritual father, a leader, an example. And yet, every sermon about freedom felt like a death sentence, because I knew I wasn't free. I was a prisoner behind closed doors, a prisoner to my phone, my computer, my thoughts. Sometimes ... I would be counseling someone struggling with lust ... while I myself hadn't gone a single day clean. I was telling others to crucify their flesh, while secretly feeding mine. And the guilt? The shame? It was unbearable. But what scared me more was the idea of anyone ever finding out. Because pastors aren't supposed to struggle with this, right? Pastors aren't supposed to confess they've been watching porn minutes before a prayer reading. Pastors aren't supposed to admit that they lay hands on others ... with hands that were sin-stained just hours before. So I convinced myself I could manage it, hide it, control it, but sin never stays small. It always grows. And one day, it consumes everything, including the ministry, including the marriage, including the man himself. It all started when I was a teenager. I grew up in the church. My father was a deacon. My mother was a Sunday school teacher. On the outside, we were the perfect Christian family. But no one talked about sex. No one talked about lust. No one talked about temptation. I remember being 13, using the church computer to print Bible studies. A pop-up appeared. I didn't. Click it ... I saw enough. Something awakened in me that day. Something I didn't understand, but instantly craved. I told myself it was nothing. Just curiosity. Just one time. But one time became two. Two became 10. Then it became a pattern, a cycle, a prison. I started living a double life before I even understood what that meant. I would lead youth worship, then sneak into the church bathroom to feed my addiction. I hated it. I prayed. I fasted. I cried at the altar. But the shame never left. Instead, it grew. By the time I was in my early 20s, I was already deep into ministry. People saw me as the future of the church. But I knew, deep down ... I was carrying a ticking time bomb. I thought marriage would fix it. So I rushed into it. I told myself that having a wife, having real intimacy, would make the urges disappear. It didn't, not even close. In fact, the pressure of hiding became worse. Now, it wasn't just about hiding from my church. It was about hiding from my wife. I started deleting browser histories, creating fake email accounts, hiding files inside random folders labeled work or budget. I even started counseling young men about their struggles with lust, while knowing I was more enslaved than they were. Every day, I stood on the pulpit declaring, freedom's possible in Jesus, while knowing that freedom felt impossible for me. And yet, the scariest part wasn't the sin itself. It was the thought, the constant fear that one day someone would find out. That one day, this perfect image would shatter. And when it did, everything I built, everything I loved, would fall with it, as the years passed. The addiction didn't just stay the same, it evolved. What started as simple images became videos, then more extreme content, then private chat rooms, then late nights scrolling through sites I swore I would never visit again. I was pastoring a growing church. People were coming, lives were being changed, marriages were being restored, while mine was quietly decaying. I became an expert at pretending, smiling in the foyer, crying behind closed doors, preaching holiness, while living in hidden filth. I wasn't cheating physically, but my heart, my eyes, my soul, they were completely defiled. I justified it, told myself, at least I'm not out there committing physical adultery. But deep down, I knew better. Jesus said, if you look at a woman with lust, you've already committed adultery in your heart. And I was guilty, night after night, month after month, year after year. The more I tried to stop, the stronger it pulled me in. It was like quicksand. The harder I fought, the deeper I sank. I started canceling date nights with my wife, just to stay home and consume more. I became emotionally unavailable, spiritually numb. I would finish a Sunday service, powerful altar call, tears flowing from the congregation, and within hours, I was back in the darkness, back to the sights, back to the endless scrolling. There were nights when I would literally close my laptop, stare at my reflection, and whisper to myself, what are you doing? Look at what you've become. And yet, the next day, I did it again. It wasn't just a bad habit. It was a monster, a demon that I fed in secret, while casting out demons in public. And the scariest part, I started to believe the lie that this was just my cross to bear, that freedom wasn't possible for me, that I would die with this secret, that as long as no one found out, I could manage it, I could control it, but deep down, I knew, every day I kept feeding it. I was getting closer to the day it would all collapse. It happened on a random Thursday. Not during a crisis, not after a fight, just an ordinary day. I came home, expecting the usual dinner, laughter, pretending everything was fine. But when I walked through the door, my wife was sitting at the table. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking. My laptop was open in front of her. I didn't even need to ask. I knew. She had found it. The tabs, the history, the bookmarks, the hidden folders, the secret files I thought were so cleverly disguised. All of it laid bare. She didn't scream. She didn't throw anything. She just whispered, How? Long? My mouth opened, but nothing came out. How do you explain decades of lies in one sentence? I sat down, and for the first time in my life, I told the truth. I confessed everything, the years, The struggle, the tears, the shame, and I watched ... as the woman who loved me, the woman who believed in me ... shattered right in front of my eyes. She covered her mouth, sobbing, saying, "You ... were supposed to be different. You're a pastor. You're my pastor. How could you?" I tried to hold her. She pulled away. I tried to explain. But how do you explain a life of pretending? Minutes felt like hours. Her pain was louder than any word I could say. And then came the words I feared the most. "I'm telling." The elders. My blood ran cold. I begged. I pleaded. But deep down ... I knew it was over. Not just my marriage, my ministry, my image, my reputation, everything I built, everything I worked for, was crumbling because of what I built in secret. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor, staring at the wall ... wondering how a man who preached freedom was the most bound of all ... The news spread faster than I could have imagined. By Sunday morning, I wasn't just a failed husband. I was the pastor everyone whispered about. Elders called an emergency meeting. Members sent me texts, some shocked, others furious, a few heartbroken. I was asked to step down, not temporarily, permanently. My wife? She packed her things, took the kids. She didn't yell. She didn't curse me. But her silence was louder than any scream. And I can't blame her. I destroyed the trust of the woman who stood by me through everything. I betrayed not only her, but every person who sat in those pews listening to me talk about holiness, purity, integrity. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing calls from leaders, from members, from people who once admired me, now asking, "How could you?" Some tried to console me. Most didn't. And honestly, ... I didn't deserve it. I locked myself in the guest room of a friend's house. No wife, no kids, no ministry, no respect, no purpose. Just me ... and the mess I created. I stared at my Bible, but I couldn't open it. I tried to pray, but the words felt fake. For years, I stood on stage telling people that God sets you free. But how could I believe that when I had lived as the most captive man I knew? The silence was suffocating. My wife blocked me. My church blocked me. Social media exploded with speculation. My own family stopped answering my calls. I wasn't a pastor anymore. I wasn't even a husband. I was nothing, just a man, staring at the ruins of a life built on lies. That's when I realized ... Rock bottom doesn't feel like hitting the floor. It feels like falling ... and falling. And realizing there's no floor at all. The first weeks felt like suffocating in my own skin. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't look at myself in the mirror. Because when I did, I didn't see a pastor. I didn't see a husband. I saw a hypocrite, a fraud, a man who preached freedom, while secretly feeding chains. But somewhere between the panic attacks and the endless nights staring at the ceiling, something shifted. I realized ... I had two choices. End it all, or ... face the man I had become. And for the first time, I chose to face it. I walked into a recovery group, sat in a circle of men who looked just like me. Men who wore suits on Sunday, ... and shame on Monday. And when it was my turn to speak, my mouth trembled, my voice cracked. But I said it. My name is David, and I was a pastor who lived a lie. Saying those words out loud ... felt like ripping my soul open. But it was the first honest thing I had said in years. I started therapy. I deleted every file, every app, every account tied to my addiction. I smashed my laptop, bought an old phone with no internet. But it wasn't just about cutting off access. It was about digging into the why. Why did I need validation from pixels? Why did I seek comfort in screens instead of in God? I started reading scripture, not to prepare sermons, but to survive. I stopped asking God to fix my marriage. I started asking him ... to fix me. Some days I felt strong. Others, I felt like drowning all over again. Recovery isn't a straight line. It's messy. It's brutal. But for the first time, I was fighting for me, fighting for the man I was supposed to be, not for a pulpit, not for applause, not for the approval of men, but for my soul. If you're listening to this ... maybe you know exactly what it feels like. Maybe you're sitting in the same prison I built for myself. A prison with no bars, no locks, just secrets. You raise your hands in worship ... but your browser history tells a different story. You pray ... but when the lights go off, you run back to the very thing you're begging God to set you free from. Let me tell you something I wish someone had told me sooner. Silence doesn't save you. Hiding doesn't heal you. Pretending doesn't purify you. You can't cast out what you're still entertaining. And you can't defeat what you're still feeding. I know how easy it is to believe the lie. I can fix this alone. But brother ... sister, you can't. The darkness grows in isolation. But it loses power in the light. You are not the only one. And no, you are not beyond redemption, not beyond grace, not beyond healing. But the first step, it's not just prayer. It's not just fasting. It's confession. You have to say it out loud. You have to admit ... I am not okay. Because freedom doesn't come to the perfect. It comes to the honest. I lost my ministry. I lost my reputation. I lost people who once admired me. But you know what I found? Myself. I found God. Not in the pulpit ... but in the pit. And if he met me there, he will meet you too. But you have to stop hiding. You have to choose light. You have to choose truth. Even if it costs you everything. Because it will cost you. But what's on the other side ... is worth more than you could imagine. Real freedom. Real healing. Real life. This ... was my confession. It's ugly. It's raw. But it's real. I was the pastor everyone looked up to. But I was living a lie. I don't know where you are in your story. But I do know one thing. You don't have to stay there. You don't have to keep wearing that mask. You don't have to keep pretending everything is okay ... while you're falling apart inside. If my story sounds like yours, write it in the comments. Tell me where you're from. Say, I'm struggling too. This space ... this community is not a courtroom. It's not a place for perfect people. It's a hospital. A place for people like me, like you. People who are tired of the secrets, tired of the shame, tired of living a double life. Here, no one will judge you. Here, we turn shame into healing. We turn pain into freedom. And no, I don't have all the answers. I'm still walking this path, still stumbling, still learning. But I know one thing. The day I stopped hiding ... was the day I started living for real. Well, this is my story. If you identify with me, leave your story here in the comments. Never forget that your story can change other people's lives. Continue watching this video that is appearing on your screen.